Hello YouTube. So for some reason the video in video is not working. It only works on the live stream, but what can you do? So what do I have? I have Stevens Retro on Limb GX4000, and it's broken. And what's broken about it is that inside this port here there is a pin missing. And this pin is for the controller. So these are the two controller ports of the GX4000. And this pin is for controlling button 2. So what he's asked if I can do is replace the controller port, or replace both controller ports, because the other one might break as well. So we've unscrewed the top, and we can take a look inside. And I've unscrewed it from the bottom as well. We've got a looks like a button here, so we can just take that off. Hopefully it comes off easily. And it doesn't want to come off, but then it is many years old. So let's see if we can encourage it to come off. Nope. For whatever reason, it is just clipped in, but the clip is not unclipping. Well, this is a good start, isn't it, for this super duper video. Yeah, the clip is there. Put my nail behind it. Try and get it out. Ugh. There we go. Gosh, that was hard work. So, all these little bits falling out. Okay, so it's a switch, probably the power switch. I have got one of these, and I have played it, but it's in its box, and I think that's where most people's GX4000s are, in their box. Now what we can do is we can probably get a bit of light in here, if I don't knock everything everywhere. There we go. A bit of light. Let's see if this works. A bit better. A bit better. Maybe we can have it a bit higher and over here or something. It's a magnifying glass at the same time, this thing. Okay, so how's that looking? Perhaps okay. Okay, so where's the problem? The problem is these connectors here. We want to replace them. What do we want to replace them with? Well, I've got some presents from China, which are replacement connectors. So these are, well, I think they're actually identical, almost, to these ones. Instead of having these rivets, they've just got solder things which are connected to screws. So we need to take those screws out, because I think they'll interfere with the port. Yeah, so these connectors from China, £3 for 20, and that includes postage. So I don't know where they get them from for that price, but yeah, there you go. Take that off. It's just one of those bald things to shield, one of those shield things. So how do we take this off? Well, there's lots of ways to do it. Looking at this, even though these are riveted on the top, it's just soldered on the bottom. So I think we can probably just use a soldering iron and the solder sucker and just solder them off. Now the problem with this obviously is it's 30 years old, so touching this and point on that is ridiculous. I've got the wrong tip on my solder thing here. This is for doing, I don't know, surface mount or something. It's tiny. Anyway, too small. So enough blabbering. How do we do this? We add more solder, and by adding more solder, it mixes with the old solder that's on there, loosens it up a bit, and then it makes it easier to get off. So now, yes, it's working. There we go. So we just add a load of solder on here, like this, and that will get the old solder loosened up, and then we can use this thing. It's called a solder sucker, and what you do is you put it on the solder and you suck it, and then you can just get it off. You see, and that got off a whole big flake of it. And then we can start to see what we're actually working with here. And it does appear to be some kind of yeah, so it's rivet on one side, and it looks like the new ones where it's sort of two legs on the other side. So I might need to get some pliers on that to get them off. But anyway, we can get the rest off while we're at it. So by adding the solder before we try to remove it, what it does is it almost protects where you're going. You know, where the new one is, because I don't know why it works. It just does. There you go. There's your answer. So what I do is I just put a little bit on, just to get it going, and then I suck it off. There we go. There we go, with my solder sucker, like that, and eventually there'll be no solder left. And the pads are all nice and clean. No damage at all. That's what we're after. I mean, you can use wicks, you know, like a piece of copper or something. The solder will stick to it. I've always found that the solder sucker works well. So what I'm doing is I'm just doing it on each pin. So just getting the solder nice and wet, and then pulling it off, sucking it off, whatever your innuendo is. And sometimes these things just fall out when you get all of the pins done, and then putting the new one in will be relatively easy. Okay, so that looks good. Let's do this last one. So just add in a bit of solder, and it just encourages the original 30-year-old stuff to melt with it. See, there was a massive amount there. Oh gosh. Don't know if I'm going to be able to get that one out. That was a huge amount that came out there. So what we're going to do then is blocked my sucker. I think we can just unscrew the end here. Yeah, how do you unscrew this? Okay, so that's unscrewing. There we go. Unscrew that. And hopefully it's all going to see through inside. Now it's lead-free solder, so, well, my stuff is. Obviously the old stuff probably isn't. There we go. And there we go, back to normal. Oh, it's jamming it now. It's not coming off as quick as it should. Maybe the pin is covered in solder. Looks like it could be. So we just have to get that off of there. There we go. It's all gone up the pin. There we go. Oh, now we've got a blob on my desk. Now this is bad news. I don't want my desk melting. Now I don't think it can melt because it's glass. It's tempered glass. Probably a bad idea, soldering on top of a glass table. But, you know, hasn't stopped me before. Oh, Jesus. Well, that worked. Except there's no spring in it now. So that just fell straight through to the bottom. So let's try it with a spring. And then, there we go. Right. There we go. Back to normal, like it never happened. So, back to this. So we've got a blob in here. This is only the thing that secures it in place. So let's have a look at this. How far did we get with getting all this off? Because the light in here is not the best light. So it may be I need to squeeze where these rivets are with some pliers, of which I probably don't have any up here. All probably downstairs, my pincer things. Or we could just try pulling on it. Try to keep it in frame while I do this, because the camera is about 3 seconds behind. So let's see if we can encourage it to move. Oh, hello cat, are you in here? So I'm not worried about this part here, only because it's only just holds it in place. There's nothing special about it. It's like the rivets. But it's not moving very far. Might have to use the pincers after all, because the pins are pretty much clean now. And I felt that coming through the other side. So yeah, the pins are pretty much clean. So there's no give there. I don't want to put any pressure on the board itself. So it really just is this this part here, and it's definitely loose. I think what they've done is bent them outwards. Yeah, they bent outwards. You hear that noise? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause the video and go get my little pincer thing. Okay, so it took a little bit longer to find the pincer things. Almost a week actually. And anyway, turns out that if I move this around, let's see if we can. Now that's gone the wrong way. Let's turn it upside down. There's a delay. So from what I see to what you see, there's a delay. Yes, so about there then. A bit more there. And probably turn it like that. Hey, brilliant. Okay, so yeah, these little things here, they're sort of like rivets, and I can't get them off the board, so I'm going to have to do it in parts. So I can't seem to get both sides at the same time, because it's soldered on. Oh, I'm zoomed in now anyway, so I've got this 5x zoom on the camera there. So I'm going to zoom back out again now, which I think if I click this button a couple of times, it goes to 10 and then goes back out to full frame. There we go. Okay, and yeah, I've got one of these. So let's see. It's a Dremel. There we go. So what I'm going to attempt to do with my safety squints engaged is take off the top layer here of plastic, which will then expose. Hang on a second. let me explain what I'm going to do and then do it. Yeah, I'm going to take off this top layer of plastic, which will expose the pins. I'll then be able to snip the pins, which hopefully will just leave the final two lumps of plastic where the rivet is, and then that way I can take the rivets off one at a time. So therefore, hopefully not damaging the board in any way. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and do that, okay, so I've got the old connectors off, and it was an absolute nightmare. They were, as I say, these little sort of rivet areas here. They sort of was sprung and then soldered. So you're trying to desolder and undo the spring at the same time. It's very, very hard. But yes, the Dremel worked, just zizzed straight through it, and yeah, absolutely. It came to pieces, literally into pieces. I have a little collection of bits in there now, and I've clipped the new ones in. So there we go. We've got some brand new connectors on there, and they just clip in, sort of like the rivet, but there's only well, it uses more compression through the hole, just sort of, rather than clipping over it like a rivet. So all I need to do now is solder them on. So nice and easy, nice and easy. I've got my magnifying glass here, and if I can get the thing to actually stay still while I do this, in a way that I can actually look at this without it, let's try it like that, without it moving, yeah, so this is going to be nice and easy, and I might even press the zoom button. Here we go. Let's zoom in. Do I have to press it twice? Maybe I have to press it twice. Let's try again. There we go. So, that's much better, isn't it? You can see that. So, so yeah. Now I'm going to try and do this through the magnifying glass, and yeah, nice and simple, really. Just need to put each of the pins on. Doesn't need loads. Just needs the pin heating up so the solder melts to it, and that will then stick the pin. I should have started from the left, but that will stick the solder to the pin rather than melt the solder, if that makes sense. So, ooh, riveting YouTube, yes. So they're all in now. Now what I can do, let's put a little bit more on that one. What I can do is also just a little bit on this rivet here. Rivet. I don't know what to call it. Is it a rivet? I don't know. I'm not going to put a lot on there because it doesn't really need a lot. I don't think it's. So, anyway, if you can hear maths going on in the other room, it's. There we go. So again, heating up the pin that you're putting it to makes the solder sort of merge around it, and yeah, that looks good. So we can do the other one, and then we can test it. Now let's get it so it's in view. As I say, I'm about a second behind the recording software, so I can see it up on the screen. It's about a second behind. Okay, good. Looks great, actually. That looks really good. So I'm just going to tidy up these ones. This one could just do a little bit more, only a slight smidgy bit. There we go. Just to give it a nice shine. Nice shiny bits of solder. Okay, looks good. So, oh, was my hand in it the whole time? Yeah. Oh well, not the end of the world. Right, so what we have then is the two connectors now soldered in and ready to test. So let's give it a test. Okay, moment of truth. Now, sound's going to be a bit different. I have to turn the fan off because you're probably hearing that. Sounds a bit different because I've had to move the camera so we can actually see what's going on. And what is going on? Right, I've plugged, I'm going to shout. so it goes across the room. So I've plugged in the two controllers, and I plugged in SCART adapter and the power supply, put the game in, green light comes on, music starts. Great. Now if I point it at the TV, hopefully that's the TV and we can see the screen. Excuse the mess. Now let me just check on the camera, because I've got to run back over here to make sure it's all lined up. That's straight enough. Okay, so how do we test all the functions? Well, we just play the game. Now there is one thing I've noticed. Now I don't know if it's because this is an older revision that Stephen's got compared to mine. My one is a C and his is an A, so he's got a much earlier revision, and it just looks blurry to me. It's not as sharp as I think it should be, but I don't know if it's just the age, and maybe it needs the capacitors swapping out. You know how all these capacitors get old? Maybe, but I don't know. It's playable, so let's play it. If I pick up the controller, so I'm going to pick up controller 1, and what we can do is test the buttons. So the buttons that weren't working was button 2 on controller 2, I think. But the way we can test it is we can click button 2 on controller 1, and that then gives us some options, so we know button's working. We can then press button 2 on controller 2, because they both work the same on this game, and that works as well. And if I press button 1, it switches between automatic and manual, and if I press button 1 on that one, it's automatic and manual. Okay, everything's looking great. So if I now start the game, the buttons are up, so I press up and that accelerates. I press down and that brakes instantly, and on controller 2 I accelerate, brake instantly, and if I go left and right on controller 2, that works, and if I go left, right and left on controller 1, that works as well. So we've got all the controllers working. That's great. It didn't turn on the very first time. I think that maybe the cartridge slot was a bit dirty, but I can show you the thing. So this is now. Is it going to be in focus? Let me stop the camera for a second. What's going on? I can't see in the viewfinder anymore, so I'm just going to assume you can see. But yeah, so where the controllers go, I'll just give you a quick little look. They're the new connectors, and they're in there nicely solid, and soldered in place and working. So there you go, easy peasy solder job done.